Hey, if you're in need of a sign and are in the Chambersburg area, you need not look any further than Bear Sign Service. They offer lighted and non-lighted signs, vehicle lettering and wraps, flags and flagpoles, and can ship anywhere. With over 75 years of being in business, Bear Sign Service is the oldest full-service sign company in Franklin County. So check them out at bearsign.com. That's BAERSIGN.com, and tell them you heard about them on Addressing Gettysburg. Are you ready for your next great Civil War read? Then try the new historical novel, The Heavens Falling, by Jonathan Lucci. Follow the members of the Dawson family through the Civil War, from the halls of Congress to the bloody fields of battle, and from the decks of gunboats to the solitude of Lincoln's office. The Heavens Falling is available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, or visit theheavensfalling.com to order. That's theheavensfalling.com.
This episode of Addressing Gettysburg is brought to you in part by me, audiobook narrator Mike Scott, narrator of Savis Beattie's Bloody Autumn, the Shenandoah Valley Campaign of 1864, and Unlike Anything That Ever Floated, the Monitor and Virginia and the Battle of Hampton Roads. If you are an author or publisher interested in having your titles produced as audiobooks, or even just in learning more about the process, give me a shout. You can find my contact info on my website, MikeScottVoice.com. That's MikeScottVoice.com.
Want the freshest cup of coffee in Gettysburg? Then visit Bantam Roasters, formerly 82 Cafe at 82 Steinware Avenue. They roast all of their coffee in-house, and they have a full coffee bar to keep you caffeinated during your trip. Visit them at www.raggededgerc.com for their menu and shipping options for all of their freshly roasted coffee. Use promo code Hancock for 10% off your order in the cafe.
Hi, this is Mark Charisse. I'm the host of the Gettysburg Electric Map, and you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios,
you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg's Ask a Gettysburg Guide. And today we are talking with our friend Chris Army, licensed battlefield guide extraordinaire, about General John Gibbon, General Extraordinaire. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, Matt?
Welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a while.
Not since winter, I don't think.
Yeah.
How's your spring and summer been?
And it's been busy.
Good.
We're happy to say that a lot of people are showing up on the field wanting tours. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That's good to know. All right, so we're talking about John Gibbon. People love these biographical episodes that we've been doing, so no pressure,
okay.
But they're quite popular. So do a good job.
I'll do my best.
Let's talk about him a little bit. He was born in, 1827?
1827, right? Yes. April 20th.
420 man.
Yeah, he's a 420 man. Yeah. Born in Philadelphia, actually, and he's the fourth of 10 kids, so a big family.
Yeah.
Big family. And they will move to North Carolina, actually, when he's about 10 or 11 years old, down to Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. And one of the interesting things, this is a guy that was a soldier all his life. I mean, born and bred a soldier, was a soldier, dies a soldier. He will join the United States Military Academy at a very young age. He's actually 15 years old when he joins, and according to one article about John Gibbon, he's actually held back a year because he failed to answer correctly a question on when our independence of the United States was won. So,
really?
apparently he wasn't a history guy.
I guess not. Loved his country enough to serve it, but not to know anything about it.
Yeah. I think it was July 5th we gained our independence. Oh, now I got to wait a year to get into West Point. So
wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. I don't know what the question, it doesn't state what the question was, if it was date related or, perhaps an essay that they didn't like or whatever. I'm not familiar with what the entrance questions to West Point were.
Yeah. I'd love to know what that is.
That'd be kind of cool to find out.
I wonder, do you think there's a record of that?
I would imagine, maybe some of our West Point aficionados or maybe even graduates can tell us what that would have been like.
I would love to know that. I need to get a connection at West Point. I think
I know Carol Reardon, one of her students, is now one of the I think it's librarian or something up there. So maybe Carol can.
Maybe
help
she
us
can do
find
that. Yeah,
answer
that
for
would be
us.
great.
Yeah.
So all right,
Yeah,
so
and then it's going to be on the next guide test. Which that's obviously
right.
a question like that
Right.
everybody should
Right,
know.
exactly. That would be great if.
Now we've
That would be
covered
great
that.
if we could find that out and get the information out there, and then the guide test people go, oh, this we need to put this on the guide exam now, all because of addressing Gettysburg.
That's right. That's a brilliant question. And it's going to make or break guides for years to come.
Just like it made or broke John Gibbon.
John Gibbon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now he's one of 10 siblings.
Yeah.
Having one sibling is hard enough sometimes, and he's got 9 others to deal with.
Yeah.
And they're down in North Carolina. So he gets into West Point, I think is where we left off, right?
Yeah.
What year is he in West Point?
So he's there from 1842 to 1847. And
Okay.
when he graduates West Point, he goes out to, into the artillery service. So what that tells us about him, I think he graduated like 20th out of 37 in the class, so about in the middle of the class.
All right.
But, he goes into artillery service, gets sent to Mexico. He's around the area of Mexico City and Toluca, but apparently did not see any action or any major action down there. So, he hasn't, proved himself with esteem there. However, when in 1847, he's a second lieutenant. He goes into that 4th U.S. Artillery, and with that promotion, goes down to Mexico. After that, he's actually down in Florida, in the Seminoles in Florida, and trying to keep peace along the Texas-Mexico border. So he's got a bunch of assignments. While he's down in Florida, I thought this was kind of interesting, Matt. Your listeners will absolutely love this. Maybe we'll put this on the guide test as well. Gibbon meets up with Lieutenant George Gordon Meade. And he describes Meade, who's with the topographical engineers, as years later he writes a description that Meade was a thin man with a hatchet face.
Ah.
I was trying to figure out what a hatchet face. How does that?
Like you'd rather gouge out your eyes with a hatchet than look at his face? Is that what that means?
I mean, he's got like chiseled features.
Yeah, maybe.
It doesn't line up with the snapping eye, or what is that, a goggle-eyed snapping turtle that many people describe Meade as. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating. Of all the descriptions.
Yeah.
A hatchet face.
A hatchet face. I've never heard that.
So there's the second thing that we got to figure out
about John Gibbon. He's a man of mystery.
That's right. So in 1854, he ends up being assigned to the military academy at West Point as an assistant instructor of artillery. Apparently, this guy's really good with artillery. Mm-hmm. And so much so, we'll talk about this, but he ends up publishing the Artillerist manual. But he also serves as the academy quartermaster. So, he's got a couple different roles up at the academy during his time there. And while he's there in 1855, he ends up meeting his wife, Frances North Moale, Moale. Moale.
I prefer to throw a...
Sounds more exotic.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's from Baltimore, so there's a certain exoticness about her anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so...
Baltimore was that the French? Was that a French? It was a bunch of French Catholics that founded Baltimore. I know it was Catholic, but
yeah, I'm not up on my Baltimore history.
Me neither.
But sounds good.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good story.
Let's say that. Yeah. We're probably wrong, but let's say it.
Now he writes a bunch of letters to her throughout his time in the service, because many times he's away from her, and he always addresses her apparently as "Dear Mama." Dear Mama. So,
Dear Mama.
Yeah. So he will write her from Gettysburg, in fact, start that letter with Dear Mama. So
oh, wow. Okay.
She was his mama.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, that's nice.
And I think they had a few kids. I don't know if I have listed how many kids they had together, but one of them dies rather young. But, Gibbon will end up taking over the 4th U.S. Artillery in 1859. So he does go back into artillery service. And it's during that time that he publishes the Artillerist manual, which interestingly was never officially approved by the War Department of the United States. But it's a really good manual. You probably have a copy.
I think I have a few.
Yeah.
Not of that one, but I have a few manuals in my library at home.
Yeah, so maybe a personalized signed copy by John Gibbon. Dear Matt,
cool.
good luck with the show. Check out my artillery manual, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one of those.
Yeah.
He was doing signings at the Heritage Center.
Yeah, that's typically where he shows up to do this.
Yeah.
So,
looking good for his age.
Yeah.
I got to say.
Well, and still knows a thing or two about artillery, let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
And this becomes a manual that's very well received and used by Union and Confederate artillerists during the American Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that are prepping for the guide test, so I keep saying that, the artillerist manual is definitely something that you at least want to check out. The copies can get a little expensive now. It was republished like in the 80s or 90s through Morningside Publishing.
Okay.
You can find them out there, but I haven't looked lately. But I know when I bought my copy, it wasn't the cheapest book on the market, but chock full of everything you ever wanted to know about artillery, but was afraid to ask. So Gibbon really did a good job covering that. Now, once he's back with the 4th U.S. Artillery, he goes out west to Utah. I mean, Utah is beautiful place. What a great place to be stationed in the late 1850s.
Yeah, right.
1860s, right?
The desolate nothingness.
Yeah, and from what I understand, he did bring the family out there to a place called Camp Floyd, Utah Territory. So he does get orders to leave the post and report to Fort Leavenworth, which is like 1,200 miles away.
Yeah,
it takes him 2 months to get there. Can you imagine? I mean, we get ticked off if our flight is late or an hour.
Delayed an hour. Yeah, I know. I got to sit 5 hours in an airport. Yeah. Sleep in a chair.
Yeah.
But this guy, 2 months.
2 months.
And how long did it take to get the message out to him? Because they didn't have telegraphs by that point, did they?
Not out that far.
No.
So,
so that would have had to go by Pony Express or something, or not Pony Express, but by land.
Yeah, a rider probably out from Leavenworth to come bring him back.
Right.
And so that would take a while just to get out there.
Yeah.
So things don't happen real quick for John Gibbon as far as jumping into the Civil War, but he does. He gets back to Leavenworth after 2 months. The war and all that is around it is starting to kick back up. So he will end up reporting to Washington and take some command of some artillery in Irvin McDowell's division. Now this is where things get a little tough on the family. As we mentioned, he's born in Philadelphia, got 9 brothers and sisters, and they moved down to North Carolina. Well, some of his brothers are of age to serve as well. Mm-hmm. And they decide to go with the South versus the North because of their home being in North Carolina. So that must have been difficult for Gibbon. There's a lot of papers and articles and things that he left behind, apparently in Philadelphia Historical Society.
Right.
To prepare for this, I did not travel to Philadelphia and dig into all those papers. I apologize for that.
I thought you were going to really do your homework.
Yeah, Matt, I usually do, but things have been busy.
Not this time.
Yeah. But apparently this wasn't something that he spoke about or wrote about. But that had to be kind of a unique challenge for him in that, he has 2 brothers and a couple of brother-in-laws. Let me take a look at my notes here. He's got one brother-in-law who's in the surgeon in the 28th North Carolina, so Lane's Brigade. He's got a brother who is in the Navy, Confederate Navy. You don't hear a lot about the Confederate Navy, do you?
No, you don't. You don't hear a lot about either Navy, really. I mean, of course, we talk a little bit more about the United States Navy, but really the Navy doesn't get much. Yeah. Someone should do addressing Navy.
Yeah, you should put a note to for future shows.
Yeah, do a Navy show.
The mighty Union Navy versus the mighty Confederate Navy.
I would love to find someone who knows a lot about, or knows at least enough to be dangerous about the naval war.
Okay.
And I would produce a whole different show for them. They could be the host of their own show about that, because I think that's fascinating. And nobody ever talks about the Navy.
Yeah.
There's a whole set of ORs just for the Navy.
There is.
And who cares? Nobody cares. They only care about 3 volumes of the ORs, and that's for Gettysburg.
My last name, of course, is Army. So
so you have to.
Navy.
Yeah.
So don't look to me for that project.
No, okay.
But, I might know a guy. So
Does your cousin Chris Navy have any interest in it? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. He's more of a pilot, kind of, Air Force.
Chris Air Force, okay.
My dad was actually in the Air Force.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Air Force or
Air Force.
Yeah, so during...
Watch this, folks. This is going to be interesting to see how Matt trying to guess how old I am.
Trying to do the math. Well, it could be World War II. You're not that old.
I will hit a significant number this year in October, if that helps you, Matt.
You're going to hit 60?
Well, I didn't really want to say it, but yes, I'm as old as Tim Smith.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim's 60?
Yeah, Tim. Yeah. If not now, he will be.
He will be, since you're both in the 59 area.
We're there's a few of us. They call us the boys of 63 because that's when we were born.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And one of them is a lady. Shout out to Jackie, and she's a gal of 63. So there were 4 of us that used to pal around.
So you just outed a woman's age.
Yeah, but they don't know who Jackie is. I know who
Jackie knows who Jackie is.
Jackie knows who Jackie is. She doesn't look anywhere close to that age.
Well, good for her. Good for her.
Yes.
Good
okay.
for her.
Saved myself. All right. So you got
so
a
you're
brother
back to
in
the
Navy.
siblings, yes.
Brother in the Navy. That sounds like a Billy Joel song.
Back to
brother
the siblings.
in the Navy. Still in it. Anyway. Surgeon in the 28th North Carolina Lanes Brigade. Also another brother who is in the 28th North Carolina. Don't know his rank. So also 2 brothers-in-law. So the whole whole rest of the family's fighting for the Confederacy. Except Gibbon. So that must have made for an awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was going to say. So he's the only one from his family that went north.
Yeah. Yep.
And were his siblings that fought for the South, were they in the U.S. Army prior to the war, or did they join up when the war broke out?
It seems more that they joined up, but
okay.
I don't know.
So technically, okay, well, let's say that is true then, that they weren't in the U.S. Army beforehand. They didn't break any oath.
Right.
They just joined up and took a new oath, but or I guess
that statement is true.
If that's true,
if they had not served in the United States Army prior to.
Okay, gotcha.
And nothing that tells me that they did. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So Thanksgiving dinner is a little awkward. Yeah, and the family is mostly fighting for the Confederacy. Now, in the winter of 1862, Gibbon is. He's been in the artillery, but he's given a job training volunteers. And Gibbon apparently does not think very much of that kind of army. Having grown up, from West Point on and served in the military, he's not real impressed with the volunteers. But on May 2nd of 1862, he actually gets a promotion to Brigadier General of Volunteers. He's kind of hoping that he would get that promotion earlier. Probably many of his friends were being promoted. And he's given command of a little-known brigade of Western troops, the 2nd, 6th, and 7th Wisconsin and 19th Indiana. Perhaps your listeners have not heard of them.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah. So
can't place it.
And it's funny. There's a couple of unique stories about his organization with them and organizing them and drilling and training them to become one of the most elite fighting units in the American Civil War, of course, known as the Iron Brigade.
That's where I knew those regiments from. Yes, the Ironic Brigade.
The Iron Brigade, and they're not real happy with Gibbon by some accounts that he's it's just constant drilling and so on and so forth. But even worse, he changes the uniform. He makes them wear these black hats and these these white leggings around their pants legs so that they're very identifiable. Now, from Gibbon's perspective, he's building that esprit de corps from the men's perspective, this is a bunch of baloney.
Right,
You know?
right.
Yeah, we got these big black hats that we got to wear. And
the white leggings. I mean, you're kind of noticeable from across a battlefield.
Yeah.
You know?
You can notice them. In fact, the men are so upset by the white leggings that one day Gibbon wakes up and he walks outside and he finds that somebody has put white leggings on his horse.
That's funny.
Now, it apparently ticks him off quite a lot. And
of course.
I'm going to jump way ahead to the story later on in his life. He becomes, I think it's the president or an officer in Moale, an organization of Union Civil War veterans, and he's in Wisconsin at some point in time, and he finds out that they're having a reunion. So he goes to the reunion, and it's a locked reunion. So he knocks on the door, and the guy that answers the door apparently doesn't know General Gibbon.
Okay.
So he's reluctant to let him in, and they finally let him in. And the guy asks him, "Well, who are you?" And he says, "I'm General Gibbon, and I'm looking for the bastard who put those white leggings on my horse." So it stuck with him for a long time.
Yeah.
Some things, Matt, during war, you just never get over.
You just never get that. It haunts you.
Yeah, it does.
The white leggings.
It does.
Forget about the maimed bodies. The white leggings on my horse.
That is an issue.
Make a fool of me, young man, and I'll forget that. Or I won't forget that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's How long ago? How long after the war was that?
Oh, this is I think in the early 1890s.
90s, yeah, right.
Yeah, so it took him a while. If I were him, I would have had something put on my gravestone about the white leggings.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah,
that would have been funny.
I would have.
Like that grave in Evergreen Cemetery about, he has a thing about something about God and imbeciles, and I'm proof, or I can't remember what it is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Jones is the name.
Yeah.
And on the back of the headstone is a thing about...
something like it said that God loves imbeciles, and I'm proof.
And I'm living proof, or I was living proof, or something like that. Yeah. I love that.
I might put one on mine that says, I told you I was sick. Something like that. Now you realize you'll get all sorts of comments in the in the feed about what people want to have as their epitaph.
Yeah, I would like to know. Put that in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. What do you want on your epitaph, on your headstone?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out what I want on mine yet.
Well, hopefully you have some time, Matt.
I hope so too. Yeah, I got a lot to do.
That's the key, though. You got to figure that out before it's too late.
Yeah, you're right. I got to figure out where I'm going to be buried too.
Yeah.
I got a lot of figuring to do.
I've already got my property up here at Evergreen. I purchased my property. It's the only property I own in life, Matt.
Yeah.
And, I fully own it outright. So.
Good. I need to, I think I need to do that too. Yeah. Sooner than later, before there's no room in there anymore.
Well, it's filling up.
I don't want to be down in the low ground.
I didn't want to be near the hotel.
No, me neither.
Not against anybody that's near the hotel there.
Right.
But that's not really why you would want to be buried in Evergreen.
No. Of course, everybody wants to be near the top of the hill.
Yes.
I don't want to be in a floodplain, just floating around down there in my vault, soup. I'm going to turn into soup anyway, but I just don't want to.
So that's why you're not going to be buried in Louisiana, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'd rather be like the way the Plains Indians used to do it up on a scaffolding. I'd like to do that.
Maybe we could set some up like on Little Round Top.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We probably need a permit for that.
Probably. Of course you do. You need a permit for everything. All right. Okay. Now, where do we leave off
here?
All
right. So he's training the men, and of course the brigade that he's training, they're going to have their baptism of fire at a place called Bronner Farm at the outset of the Second Manassas fight. So, and then a couple of weeks later, these black-hatted fellows with their frock coats,
right,
and their leggings. That's what I get for trying to be fancy in my speech here. They're going to actually earn their nickname, the Iron Brigade, as they hold the line at South Mountain. And look at Gibbon's men; they stand there like irons.
Yeah.
Which of course. That's a nickname that they're all very proud of, and Gibbon has done a wonderful job in building that esprit de corps for all of the aggravation that the men felt at doing all of that. They're now one of the most, if not the most elite fighting unit in the Union Army. You'll probably get some fan mail about that.
Of course. Well, I wouldn't say they're the most elite.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty hard to find another unit that as a unit with all of the regiments is more elite, in my opinion, than on the Union side than the Iron Brigade. But we can wrestle that over some beers at local establishments. So they go from there to Antietam. And at Antietam, there's a letter that Gibbon writes to Dear Mama, and he says, in that letter, I'm as tired of this horrible war as you are and would be perfectly willing never to see another battlefield.
He's got a long way to go before he gets there.
Absolutely.
God.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing. If you look at his history, like you're saying, right, he was in, the Mexican War. Didn't see any combat, though.
Yeah.
He attempted to keep the peace between the Seminoles and settlers in Florida.
Meeting Hatchet Face.
Meeting Hatchet, right. He met Hatchet Face. And then he gets into the Civil War. Oh, no. Well, then he's out in Utah. Did he see any action in Utah?
It doesn't really, say in the biographies that I've looked up, anything extensive at this point in time.
Right.
After the Civil War, of course, he's going to go back.
Well, and that's where I'm going. He's got the Civil War.
Yeah.
And then he stays in the Army and he goes out and fights the Indians. I mean, he's part of the whole Little Bighorn campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, for a guy who's sick of the war, he sure takes his leave awful slowly.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned a little bit earlier about, all the killing and mangling, that wasn't something that he mentioned,
No, it was the leggings.
It was the leggings. But, I'm sure, as sure as I could be, I suppose, that when you take a look at, the fighting at Antietam, and the fact that, in the cornfield along the road there, Gibbon's guys are just what they're witnessing. I think anybody would be tired of war,
absolutely.
On September 17th,
sure.
1962. So, it continues on, though. He will be given command of the 2nd Division of Reynolds' 1st Corps, and he and Reynolds, by accounts, are old friends. So, he's probably happy to serve as one of his division commanders, and he will be at the Battle of Fredericksburg in support of George Meade's attack on the Confederate right flank south of Fredericksburg. And
speaking of Fredericksburg, isn't it Gibbon who witnesses Meade blow up at Hooker?
Burnside?
No. Or maybe. No. It was Hooker. It was later on.
Okay.
It wasn't after Fredericksburg.
Okay.
I think he blows up because Hooker's Army commander. Because doesn't Meade, when Meade is put in command before the Battle of Gettysburg, doesn't he think he's being arrested because of that incident with Hooker? Like they have a big blow up, right?
Yeah.
And Gibbon is there, but he kind of does the backwards creep out the door to avoid being a witness for a court martial. Isn't that what am I thinking of the right? Have you heard that story?
I've not seen that account or heard the story, but it would. I've often wondered, because of Meade's response when the colonel shows up at his tent and tells him, General, I've come to make trouble for you.
Yeah.
Meade thinks he's getting arrested. He doesn't have any idea he's about to get command of the whole Union Army.
Right.
And, that would be certainly a catalyst for that if he had taken on. I know Meade and others were upset at Chancellorsville because they really felt, and they did, they had a really good plan going. And due to Hooker,
jumbled it.
It kind of fell apart.
I don't know where I got that story, but it was enough for me to believe it, so I put it in my narrative episode. So it's in there.
Well, Matt, as we say in the guide business, I'm not sure if that story is true or not, but if it's not, it ought to be.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
So we'll go with that here this morning.
Good.
So
good rule of thumb.
Yeah. So towards the end of the fight at Fredericksburg, though. Gibbon is actually struck in the left wrist by an artillery shell fragment. So, they're going to bring him to Washington, D.C., where he's going to recover for a little while in a hospital. And much like our friend Dan Sickles, Gibbon is visited by President Lincoln during his time there. And it seems like Lincoln does a pretty good leadership job there, getting out to visit some of these these soldiers and generals, especially to learn probably firsthand what's happening with the fighting and see the conditions of their generals, and get a little roundabout information, if you will. Of course, you have the official reports. You have all of their activities and discussions about what actually happened. Kind of like the official word, but I think Lincoln's kind of smart in going out and talking to some others and pulling his own version together.
He's no dummy.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. That man ought to have been president. Okay. So he does spend a little time in his family with Baltimore. He returns to the Army on April 1st, 1863, and now he's put in charge of a division, the 2nd Division of Darius Couch's 2nd Corps. And so, they will be in Chancellorsville, and go through that fight. And as we go into June, after the Battle of Chancellorsville has been fought, and, Lee, of course, on the Confederate side will lose Stonewall Jackson, reorganize his army, decide that a little foray into south central Pennsylvania for the summer. Let's do a little shooting and a little shopping. Going to be a good time this summer.
Uh-huh.
So in the middle of June, Gibbon's 23-month-old son, whose name is John as well, will pass away, and Gibbon will visit back home for a little bit, but he's back with the Army by the end of the month. And by now, George Meade has taken over, and we go in towards the activities that the 2nd Corps takes place here at Gettysburg. So, a solid commander, been wounded in battle, knows how to train troops. Good artilleryman, knows the proper use of artillery, of course, because he literally wrote the book.
Oh, yeah, that too. That's a good point. Right.
So, solid performer.
Now, here at the Battle of Gettysburg, he's a brigadier general, correct?
Yep.
But he's commanding a division.
Yes.
When does he get promoted to major general? Is that very soon after or later on?
I don't think it's very soon after, but it's definitely later on.
Okay.
I have that somewhere.
Well, we'll get to it then when we get to it.
Find it somewhere.
But no, so he's here, and he's the guy that Meade says if Lee attacks tomorrow, it'll be on your front or something like that.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Which is, I find that statement a little fascinating. And like many of these kinds of statements, you wonder how much truth is there in that.
Right.
But
where does that come from? Does that come from him or Haskell?
I think it came from him.
From him, okay.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. The other book that Gibbon published, which is it's a neat read, is
no, it came from Haskell.
Oh, did it come from Haskell?
Yeah.
Okay, I stand
page 34 to 37.
Yeah. Wow, it took him that long to say that.
Yeah, fairly.
3 pages.
He must have really described the scene very well.
That's it. Yeah,
for one quote.
Dark, Warren was sleeping.
Yeah,
Sedgwick smoking a cigar. The lead up. As Meade takes command, and is trying to organize his army into a situation to be able to defend against whatever Lee's going to do. Lee's spread out over 60 miles. There's all these different roads that go from south central Pennsylvania down to 2 key cities. And, of course, Meade's given an order, not only to find Robert E. Lee's army and fight them, but make sure that you protect Washington and Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And if you take a look at the road network at the time, there's essentially 5 major roads that can go down through Maryland to those 2 key cities. So Meade, who will end up operating on no sleep for, days.
4 days, yeah.
He is going to, as I like to put it, play zone defense and make sure those roads are protected.
Yeah.
He's got some really good ground down in Maryland to do that, called the Pipe Creek Line. You may have heard of it.
Heard of it, yeah.
So
sort of.
They will protect those approaches while at the same time sending out, the cavalry out ahead of the units, trying to move into position to figure out what Robert E. Lee is doing.
Right.
And then there's a report that Robert E. Lee is heading back towards the mountains, so out west. And so we're going to have the activities of what happens in Gettysburg with Buford coming forward and Reynolds, bringing the infantry up and all of that. Well, during all that, the Second Corps is near Taneytown. They're actually Uniontown and Taneytown. They're essentially the reserve corps. Okay, so just like on a battlefield where you have regiments, then you have your reserve regiments. The same happens with brigades and corps, and even divisions. And so the Second Corps is that reserve. Now, being close to Taneytown, who does Meade trust? He's got Sickles close by. He's got Hancock close by. He's got Slocum not too far away. But Slocum's on the, kind of the main line there. And so Meade will call upon General Hancock to go forward to Gettysburg and essentially tell him, look, if that's a better place to fight than this defensive line that we've set up, let me know. And I'll bring the rest of the army up. And there's a whole lot that goes into all of that, including Reynolds, accidentally getting killed. I'm sure he didn't plan that day when he woke up, Hancock has come forward, and now Gibbon is going to take command of the Second Corps. So to your point, he's a brigadier general, and he's been a division commander now for about a month and a half, and all of a sudden now he has a corps.
Right, so he's like 2 unit sizes above his pay grade.
Well, definitely 1, because he's a division commander, but, he doesn't have the title to go along with it,
right?
For leading a corps. And he even says in his official report, it's one of the first lines. And I think I would do this too if I was John Gibbon writing this report. He basically says, I was the Second Corps commander twice during the Gettysburg campaign. Because he takes it while Hancock is riding up here on special assignment.
Right.
Okay. And then, he will actually be leading the Second Corps onto the battlefield, and then Hancock takes it back. And then later on, during the battle itself, Hancock will give him the Second Corps as well, as he takes the Third Corps in all of its disarray. So Hancock will have the Second and Third Corps, more or less as a mini wing commander, if you will, during July 2nd.
So in the Second Corps, you've got Caldwell, Gibbon, and Hayes as the division commanders.
Yeah.
All brigadier generals, right? None of them are major generals?
Not at that time.
Right, okay. So was he the senior brigadier general, senior division commander? Is that why he got to be corps commander, or was it because he was that good of an officer?
I'm not sure if he outranks Hayes or not.
Okay,
I'd have to look that one up, but it would make sense.
Now, for someone out there listening who's kind of new to all this, and because you said if he outranks Hayes, right, or Caldwell, for that matter, but they're all brigadier generals. So what do you mean by that when you say if he outranks him? How did they determine if you have the same rank, you outrank me and I outrank him, but we're all the same rank? How does that work?
Usually by height. Wow, that was a long way to go for a Caddyshack reference.
That's funny.
It's by date of your promotion.
Right. Okay.
So
and that was in both armies, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Longstreet, for example, Longstreet and Jackson were both promoted at the same time to lieutenant general. But Lee made sure that Longstreet's was dated like the day before Jackson's or something like that. Yeah. Because as much as he, leaned on Jackson.
Is important.
Yes. He wanted Longstreet to be the second in command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very possible it could be seniority based on when, in 62, when Gibbon became a brigadier general.
But it could be legitimately that you outrank this person because of the date was, or the date could be fudged as Lee did with Longstreet and Jackson, just for whatever preference you have that you want to make this guy a little higher than that guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, both are solid commanders. All of those guys are solid commanders.
Sure. Oh, yeah, nothing against them.
Yeah. And Hayes kind of has his hands full, with Willard's Brigade and the 39th New York and other things, that he's been working hard to whip that unit into shape as well. Gibbon probably has less problems of that nature. They're all solid commanders, but Gibbon is given command of the Second Corps to bring it up here. I'm sure at some point Hancock, after meeting again with Meade, he's going to end up taking over the Second Corps again for at least the first part of July 2nd until the afternoon when all the heavy fighting starts with the Third Corps. He will go back to being the division commander, and the challenge for him is the fact that when the Confederate attack changes because of Sickles' move forward, and you have Union units out along the Emmitsburg Road, and then a huge gap. And of course, we have that wonderful quote by Hancock, right? Where some captain, I call him Captain Obvious, says, "Hey, General, Third Corps is moving forward," and Hancock looks up and says, "Yes, and soon you'll see them come tumbling back."
Right.
Well, I'm sure that there was this identification of, oh fudge, we have this big gap between the right of the Third Corps and the left of the Second Corps line, and so they're going to make some moves to try to cover some of that with some artillery, as well as a couple of the regiments from one of Gibbon's brigades, and they'll go out along the Emmitsburg Road and be out there, during that part of the fight.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So where do we go from there? I guess the attacks start, right?
Well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we'll go to Gettysburg and then briefly the rest of his life, and then we'll go take a break and get to the questions.
Yeah. So the Confederate attacks start. These series of sledgehammer blows launching off of Seminary Ridge. Once Sickles is identified. That the Union men are up along the Emmitsburg Road. Of course, this changes Longstreet's attack. They're not going to be able to hit the left of the Union line with 3 divisions, which is what Lee was planning on. Lee always seems to like that number. 15,000 men, 3 divisions.
Right, 3 corps.
Yeah, he just yeah.
Well, I guess if you're dealing with even numbers, and 2 get clobbered, you got nothing.
That's right.
Right? So 3, make 2 do and then you got that extra.
Yeah. But that's the plan. Of course, the plan goes awry very quickly when Longstreet comes out of the woods and sees the fact that, there's blue uniforms up along the Emmitsburg Road. And so he's going to extend that line down, almost another 1.5 miles, but change the attack. And, people like to refer to it as an echelon attack. I think Fonz refers to it like that. Some military groups will argue with you about that. I call it a series of sledgehammer blows because it's launch after launch after launch of, these brigades that are going to hit the left of the Union line, causing the Union men to shift men down. And the idea is that if you keep that fighting up as you continue to launch those attacks, a later attack's going to find an open or a weaker spot to break through. That's exactly what happens. I mean, it's a pretty well planned attack for being planned, in my opinion, more or less on the fly.
Yeah.
The boss wants me to do this. I can't do that. Let me scratch out something else that might work.
Yeah. Good point.
It's probably no surprise that Longstreet will end up referring to that as the best 3 hours of fighting ever done by men on any battlefield.
Yeah.
Because it's heavy fighting, and a lot of casualties. Of course, famous places now: Little Round Top, Devil's Den, the Wheat Field, Peach Orchard. All of this going on, and as the Union line ultimately will collapse and Dan Sickles gets wounded, General Meade will tell Hancock, "You now have command of the Third Corps." Now, not really sure if that meant you have command of both the Second and the Third Corps. Or just the Third Corps alone. But, think about Hancock, and I know this is a show about Gibbon, but, the first day he shows up in the middle of all the chaos in Cemetery Hill. and he's got to help resolve that, which he does. Second day, Sickles' line is collapsing. Sickles is wounded, and now he's got all this chaos of the Third Corps units.
Yeah,
with all the heavy fighting falling back in chaos.
Yeah,
and he's got to stabilize that.
Right.
So you have the fights where he calls for, Hayes to send down your best brigade. He sends down, Willard's men, who, regain their reputation and then some, as far as I'm concerned, in the Cadore Thicket. Then you have the 1st Minnesota, and the other units in and around that area trying to protect the guns and hold off the next attack of the Confederates. And then just like ocean waves, it just keeps hitting more and more.
Yeah.
And, Gibbon has sent out these 2 regiments with some artillery. They're going to be out there as long as they can, but they will eventually have to fall back. And I think they're only able to get 4 of the 6 guns back. Pretty sure that was Brown's battery, 4 of the 6 guns back, before that line collapses. And, you have the attacks of Lang and Wright and Posey. Posey, I think it's pretty well accepted, doesn't really get across the Emmitsburg Road. Wright not only gets across the Emmitsburg Road, but apparently went to some quarry in York. I mean, he talks about being so far into the Union line that, he sees this rocky area or whatever.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of discussion over the last 10 years or so as far as where did Wright get to and what did he see when he got there. We know, of course, that the groundscape on the battlefield has changed a lot, so we don't have the exact view that he may have seen.
But what he describes sounds so drastic.
It does.
It's drastically different from what it is today.
Yeah.
That I would imagine someone along the way who was alive at the time would have been able to say, oh, yeah, at the time there was a quarry here or whatever the hell it is, because, just what he described, I can't remember exactly. Doesn't he call it a ravine?
Yeah, it's something like a rocky ravine.
Yeah. Or a chasm? No, it's a ravine, I think is what he said.
Yeah, it sounds huge.
Right, and I looked there and I'm like, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. Yeah. So he either made it up or it looked a lot different back then.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And there's, of course, some historians that go round and round. Did Wright hit to the north of the copse of trees? Did he hit to the south of the copse of trees? I believe the generally accepted area is south of the copse of trees. Mm-hmm. But Arnold and Cushing's battery are involved in helping to hold them off, which tells us that they at least had the left part of Wright's left of the right, in their sights.
Right.
So it's not a quick, easy answer.
Right.
And you can imagine with all this chaos, and one of the things that Gibbon and William Harrow, they're sending units all over the place to try to help out. 1st Minnesota and other units. The 2 regiments that they send out to the Emmitsburg Road, those 2 commanders are killed. So there's not a lot of information from there. 82nd New York, I think, is one of those units. So all this chaos, and then, of course, you have the chaos the next day, and then you're supposed to write your official report.
Right. Yeah.
So trying to piece it together, I think it's anybody's guess as far as the timing, of much of it. Some of it we have a pretty good feel for. Some of it, it's kind of jumbled. There's alternate scenarios, and you can debate about it again over an adult beverage at a local bar near Gettysburg.
Just so that we don't lose track of things here. 6 questions. Lentz in the comments section says Gibbon's Brigadier General commission was senior to both Caldwell's and Hayes's, so he was the senior.
Does that count as one of his questions, or
no? That's an answer.
That's a comment.
That's yeah. And then also he says, now he doesn't put it in quotes, so I don't know if this is a direct quote, but he says Wright describes it as up a mountain overlooking a rocky gorge, not ravine.
Rocky gorge.
Rocky gorge.
Yes, I do remember that now.
Which was, ironically, that was also the name of my band in high school, Rocky Gorge.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we changed the name because the fans thought it would be funny to bring rocks to the show and throw them at us. So we had to change the name to Spongies. That's what it was called, the Spongies. But nobody picked up on it and threw sponges at us.
Yeah,
so.
they still threw rocks.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. All right. So now, okay, so the Battle of Gettysburg, this is a full life here. We're not dwelling on battle.
Right.
Battle's over.
Yeah.
The war goes on.
Well, one of the things that happens, we should mention, is on July 3rd, Gibbon gets wounded.
Oh, right. I meant to.
And I know my good friend Rick Schrader was on to talk about all of the various wounds of the commanders, and he was gracious enough to share his notes with me. But Rick, being a doctor, I can't read any of them. I'm just messing with you, Rick. I appreciate him sending the notes, because of the shoulder wound. So it sounds like it's a very painful wound, and the way that it enters. And I think even one of the doctors, essentially says that your wound came from behind you.
Oh.
So who knows? Friendly fire, question mark.
Or he turned around for a second.
Well, one of the interesting parts about the accounts during the battle is, and I think Haskell writes about this, and Gibbon actually mentions it, that, on July 3rd, when the fighting, is getting heavy, he's going to rush towards the line, and his orderly with his horse, the orderly gets killed. And Gibbon keeps on running, and he recalls, I hurriedly mounted and rode up to the top of the hill where a magnificent sight met my eyes. The enemy in a long gray line was marching towards us, and he describes the battle line. Another orderly will come up and help him with the horse and all that, and so on and so forth. But he does get wounded in his left shoulder, and he stated that he started to grow faint with the loss of blood, and he turns over command now at this point to another Brigadier General, William Harrow, and he will be taken off the field. Gibbon will be taken off the field, where they will remove the bullet, and it had entered exactly in the middle of his left arm near the shoulder, passed behind outside the shoulder blade, shattered the upturned edge of the blade, producing the impression that the blow had come from the rear. Either way, however, whichever way he was facing, that sounds painful.
Yeah, it does. And do you ever notice in the movies somebody gets hit in the shoulder and the next day they're back to work?
Yeah.
And it's it's the meaty part of the shoulder. Well, I feel around, and behind the meat in my shoulder is bone. So, where does this idea come from that you can get shot in the shoulder and then just quickly bounce back?
Yeah,
it's so silly.
Yeah,
but so you get shot.
Yeah,
that does sound painful because there's so much to the shoulder.
Right.
There's a lot of these moving parts and bones and things. And
so, if you're a general, you got to mount a horse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Try doing that with your arm.
Was it with left or right?
It was. I think it's left. He said.
So you'd have to hold the horn, or I don't know what they call it on a McClellan saddle, but you got to hold the front of the saddle with your right and pull yourself up.
Yeah.
And have an orderly push you, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So he will end up going down to Baltimore to recuperate with his family, and while he's recovering, he's actually given command of the draft depots in Cleveland and Philadelphia. Before he'll come back to the Army in 1864. And, in 64, he will end up going through the battles in the wilderness. And it seems like, here he gets a little crossways with General Hancock. And, according to some accounts that I read, Hancock is kind of critical of Gibbon's performance and the Second Corps' performance at Reams Station. And then later on, as part of the Petersburg campaign, the Second Corps will actually lose battle flags, which is something that they never did in the entire Civil War prior to that. So, that's hurtful.
Yeah.
And I guess the relationship between Hancock and Gibbon turns kind of icy for a while, and some of their mutual friends are going to try to get them to talk to each other and make up, and apparently there's one meeting that they describe as rather icy, but they more or less bury the hatchet. But Gibbon basically says it was never the same.
Yeah,
it was never the same.
Sometimes once you have that one moment where, you're pissed at each other, and even when you make up, it's just to keep the peace. But you're right, it's never the same. You can't go
take
back.
Words back.
No.
So
no.
Yeah.
That's why you should always be careful what you say.
That's right.
Yes.
So
easier said than done.
Exactly. So they. Actually, the other thing I wanted to mention about that, there's some evidence that Gibbon even offers to resign. He asked for reassignment, and he offers to resign. And during that meeting, that request, Hancock takes and puts it to candle and burns it. So that's the bearing of the hatchet. But again, it wasn't seen as a full
and this
reconciliation, if you will.
This beef started from Ream Station.
Yeah, it starts in '64 during the latter part of the Wilderness. Ream Station, Petersburg.
And why? What happens at Ream Station that?
I think it's just how the troops were handled. Hancock orders Gibbon, to get involved in some attacks, but they're being attacked by Henry Heath, who actually, as it turns out, is one of John Gibbon's best friends.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they apparently had a very, very long-standing friendship.
And you know what? I'm sorry, I forgot. Let's just jump back to Gettysburg for a second, because now you mentioned this in the beginning when you're talking about his relatives, but now let's put it in the Gettysburg context here, because you just mentioned the units they were in.
Yeah.
Now, I always knew that he was cousins to Pettigrew, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. He was related to J. Johnston Pettigrew.
Yeah.
James Johnston Pettigrew.
Yeah.
JJ, I like to call him.
He wrote a book,
Yeah.
It was a minor work.
I've heard. But now, so I always was like, wow, John Gibbon on one side of the wall, Pettigrew leading a division on the other side of the wall, and they're cousins. And I'm thinking of my cousin Jimmy, and also named James. I wouldn't be able to fight against him. I love my cousin, But it's not just cousins that he's got fighting against him here at Gettysburg.
No.
He's got the brothers and the brothers-in-laws, or what?
Yeah.
Brothers-in-law?
Yeah. Brothers-in-law, and then, the two brothers that are part of the 28th
So all of them, all of his relatives who are in the service are here against him.
Not really sure the brothers-in-law, what units they were in.
Okay.
But
they're in-laws, they don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely the two that are in the 28th North Carolina Lanes Brigade, is that second wave that's attacking during Pickett's charge. So they're not all that far from him, and one of them's a surgeon. So, kind of as we were talking about a little bit before the show, if you didn't like the doctor operating on him at the Union Hospital, maybe you could say, hey, my brother's a surgeon. I'm going to go across the way and get a better deductible from him on my insurance.
Right. Better copay.
Yeah. So
that that is interesting, though. So he's got basically his whole family coming at him across the way on July 3rd.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to really drive that home with the audience there. Yeah. All right, so back to where we are, because you got to go at 11:30.
Yes. Towards the end of the war in '65, January '65, there's Gibbon is given a command of the 24th Army Corps, consolidating troops from the 10th and 18th Corps. He becomes part of the Army of the James, and will be actually the senior federal commissioner appointed to oversee the terms of the surrender. So, he's given an important job as part of the surrender. Mustered out of volunteer service in 1866. And at that time, he goes back to the rank of captain in the U.S. Army, the 4th U.S. Artillery again. But then he's promoted colonel of the 36th U.S. Infantry, and then becomes part of the 7th, of course, out at Little Bighorn, as you mentioned. And, the only story I really have to tell you about that is when George Armstrong Custer is going to march down, down the Rosebud to head out towards Little Bighorn. Gibbon is up on an elevated. I'm not sure if you could call it a cliff. Even I've seen it. It's high.
A height.
And he yells out to Custer, "Save some Indians for us, George." And Custer replies, "Not a chance."
Right.
Maybe Custer should have saved a few.
He should have.
For Gibbon, of course, it's going to be Gibbon's column that will show up on the battlefield to help deal with any survivors, as well as those that bury the men that were killed at Little Bighorn the following day or two afterwards. So.
Doesn't Terry also say something to him earlier, or maybe around the same time, and he says something like, "Don't be greedy, Custer. Wait for us." And he says, "I won't."
Yeah.
Or "No, I won't."
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then it's like, "No, I won't what?
Yeah.
Be greedy or wait?"
Define that a little bit.
We'll never get to know.
Yeah.
So okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So then, he will be involved in the Indian Wars, for the next part of his career. He will actually be pursuing Chief Joseph in, as the Nez Perce, they're trying to get up to Canada. Gibbon will be chasing it. He and Chief Joseph, apparently, after all of this, they become very good friends.
Huh.
Yeah. So there's a photo.
Strange.
There's a photo in this article. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Of Chief Joseph and an older Gibbon, an older John Gibbon.
Yeah.
Talking about old times.
Yeah, that's.
You remember a month ago when I chased you?
I don't know if I'd be able to sit down with a former enemy like that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So now in 1885, Gibbon will be promoted to Brigadier General in the regular Army. And he will end up in Seattle. And it's during that time he actually finishes his personal recollections of the Civil War. Which is, again, another really neat book. Going through that book, I mean, you can tell, Gibbon is very much pro George Meade, which I like. Mm-hmm. And then, he will end up retiring on his 65th birthday, 1891. He's out in the Department of the Pacific in San Francisco. And then during his retirement, he's going around speaking to veterans. In 1895, he's elected Commander-in-Chief of the Military Order of the Loyal Legion of the United States, Moale, as we refer to it. And, it's during that time that he will have that little incident in Wisconsin, looking for that guy that put the, gaiters on my horse.
Yeah.
He will pass away on February 6, 1896. So he's not retired long, and he's not in command of Moale very long, and buried in Arlington National Cemetery. So, buried in Arlington, only a few hundred yards from the home of his former West Point commander, Robert E. Lee.
So,
commandant, I should say.
Yes. I think I read beforehand that he also came back here for the cemetery dedication.
I think he did.
Him and Haskell, and they were like buddies. Haskell. Yeah. That wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't just professional. Like they were friends.
Oh yeah. Like buddies for life.
What was BFFs?
Yeah. Second Caddyshack reference.
What? Yeah. What?
Second Caddyshack reference.
See, I have to rewatch Caddyshack. It's been a long time. Yeah. Why was he here? Was he here in an official capacity, or was he like off duty or something, or what the hell was he doing here?
I'm not sure on that one. I'd have to look that one up.
All right.
I know that, certainly for, the dedication of the cornerstone, Meade, of course, comes here for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would be unrealistic to have representatives of
the Army.
The Army show up, and
that's fair.
And perhaps he was chosen for.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break for commercials. When we come back, we're going to do some questions from our patrons over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. And we got a new thing in this show we're going to try today. This is the first time we're trying this, where our first lieutenant patrons are watching the show live as it's happening now. And hopefully, they've been instructed to call in to the show and add their own questions. That's a perk that only comes with the first lieutenant level over at patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg, and we'll be right back after these words. The Gettysburg Museum of History, located right here in the center of Gettysburg, PA. Owner and curator Eric Dorr grew up here and has spent his life collecting and preserving history through artifacts ranging from the Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg, World War II, presidential items, pop culture, and more. His museum is free and open to visitors Wednesday through Sunday, 11 to 5 p.m., where you can stop by and immerse yourself in some of the most amazing artifacts that you would never believe exist in the middle of Gettysburg. If you're a fan of Band of Brothers and Everything Easy Company, you'll love his exhibit featuring the Dick Winters collection and artifacts from D-Day. You can even own your own piece of history by buying one of the many relics they have for sale in the museum and on the website GettysburgMuseumofHistory.com. The Gettysburg Museum of History is a non-profit 501c3 organization with a foundation that allows all purchases and donations to keep the museum operating and open free of charge. They have been featured on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, the Smithsonian Channel, and the Science Channel. Now you can check them out on American Artifact, the series on the YouTube channel, The History Underground. And on a personal note, I'd like to thank the Gettysburg Museum of History for being a sponsor of Addressing Gettysburg by providing the studio that we recently moved to and do all of our shows from. So that's the Gettysburg Museum of History at 219 Baltimore Street or the GettysburgMuseumofHistory.com. Movies and documentaries about history are spread out across the internet, and their quality is often suspect. History Fix delivers curated historic programming to your preferred device using their website or branded apps. Join History Fix for movies, documentaries, short films, and how-tos. Content covers historic eras ranging from the 1st to the 21st centuries. Their team of curators brings you the most comprehensive and authentic historical content available. Addressing Gettysburg podcast fans receive 20% off their first annual subscription. So what are you waiting for? Sign up at www.historyfix.com and use promo code ADGBURG. That's ADGBURG. Every subscription begins with a 7-day risk-free trial. And after signing up, download the History Fix app on your smartphone. So go to www.historyfix.com and use promo code ADGBURG. That's ADGBURG on an annual subscription. Escape into history with History Fix.
If you're a lover of history, then go to trhistorical.com. There, you'll find apparel, drinkware, decor, and more, featuring a wide range of subjects from the ancient world to the Cold War. Looking to make an impression with the perfect gift? Well, TR Historical now offers a vintage wrapping service for a truly unique presentation. And our listeners will save 15% when using promo code GBURG1863 at checkout. So go to trhistorical.com. TR Historical, for the love of history.
For the Historian has a wide variety of titles, new and used, of military books from publishers like Osprey, Gettysburg Publishing, Stackpole, Savas Beatty, UNC Press, and more. I make it a point to go there once a week because I have new bookshelves to fill and I never know what treasures I'll find, and neither will you. They even have toy soldiers, model kits, games, children's books, and more. So stop by and check them out on your next visit to Gettysburg, or better yet, order right now online at forthehistorian.com and mention that you heard about them on Addressing Gettysburg in the Note to Seller box, and they will refund you your shipping. And if you call 717-685-5207 or stop by the store on your next visit and mention us, you'll get 20% off retail price. That's forthehistorian.com or 717-685-5207.
Who can forget the sounds of the 60s?
The 1860s. I can't, and you can't either. Now, there's Marching Through Georgia, the exciting new album by Billy Webster. All of your favorite hits of the 1860s in one place. Such hits as Gary Owens, The Battle Hymn of the Republic, All Quiet Along the Potomac Tonight, Marching Through Georgia, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Go to billysongs.com and order your digital download of Billy Webster's Marching Through Georgia today. That's billysongs.com.
Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center
Gettysburg's premier museum, is housed in the historic Lutheran Seminary building constructed in 1832, a witness to the first day of battle. The museum's 3 floors of exhibits connect visitors to the dilemmas that led to the Civil War, provide a powerful and personal view of the battle's first day, and explore one of the battlefield's largest hospitals. No visit to Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center is complete without a guided tour of the building's famous cupola, where on the eve of battle, officers and civilians saw thousands of Confederate soldiers' campfires burning to the west, and Brigadier General John Buford watched for vital federal reinforcements as fighting erupted on the morning of July 1st. Today, you can stand where Buford stood and discover how this view helped chart the course of the Battle of Gettysburg. Your trip to Gettysburg is not complete without a serious visit to Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center, Gettysburg's premier museum. Purchase tickets online at seminaryridgemuseum.org or call 717-339-1300.
To get tickets or a cupola tour, listeners may call or walk in and mention addressing Gettysburg, or by ordering online using the promo code AG1863 for 20% off.
Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center. It began here.
There's a devil to pay.
Attention all aficionados of Union Civil War music, your ensemble awaits. The National Association of Civil War Musicians, founded by the Grand Army of the Republic, serves as a beacon for those who cherish the notes that stirred a nation. Our association is a hub where the scores of the past are preserved and the spirit of camaraderie persists. Immerse yourself in the melodies that played through history. For example, take July 3rd, 1863. As Lee's cannons unleashed a maelstrom, the Philadelphia Brigade Band exemplified valor. Positioned at the heart of the onslaught, their music defied the cacophony of the largest artillery barrage in North American history. Their presence was a deliberate symbol. If the band could stand tall and play, then the infantrymen can lay in wait to hold that crucial ground. Today, we keep this and other memories alive. No matter if you sound the fife, beat the drum, or swell the brass, your contribution breathes life into our mission. Let's commemorate, collaborate, and preserve together. Step forward and join the ranks today. Visit nacwm.org. That's nacwm.org. The National Association of Civil War Musicians, honoring all the brave soldiers who dared to wage a war with only an instrument. Civil War Trails is the world's largest open-air museum, offering over 1,500 sites and stories for you to explore. Each Civil War Trail site has an interpretive sign to help fuel your imagination as you stand on remote mountaintop artillery positions, in fields where thundering cavalry charges took place, or in now quiet downtowns where raids, riots, or raiders shattered the peace. Over 60 Civil War Trail sites allowed you to stand in the footsteps of the Gettysburg campaign across Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and of course Pennsylvania. In fact, they are expanding further into Pennsylvania now, with the latest sites in Wrightsville, Hanover, and Chambersburg. As you travel the trail, you'll find more than just great history. Beyond battlefields, great barbecue, beer, and bourbon await. Here's a pro tip: carry cash and never book your day completely to ensure that you can take that gravel road, explore that hiking trail, or pick up an amazing artifact from that awesome antique shop you find along the way. Request a free brochure shipped right to your door at civilwartrails.org, and be sure to snap a hashtag sign selfie next time you are out exploring. Click the link to Civil War Trails in our show notes. Follow Civil War Trails and create some history of your own.
Hey everybody, it's Matt, and I'm here with Veronica and Bethany from the upcoming spin-off podcast, That's What She Said. And we just want to tell you about the 2023 Get Out of the Car Tour season.
Oh, wait, Matt.
Yeah.
I haven't been on one yet.
What's that?
I can't do this. I haven't been on one yet.
Oh, Beth. No, that's fine. You're all right. Veronica, you've been on one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Veronica. So what would you say to people who haven't been, they've been thinking about coming? Maybe they should come out, right?
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? That's exactly, right? What's your favorite thing about the Get Out of the Car tours?
The camaraderie.
The camaraderie. Of course. It's the same people very often. We see the same people every month.
New friends.
And it's new friends, new faces.
You're learning history with a group. You're not just learning it on your own, and it's a fun environment, very welcoming group of people that have now become like extended family, right?
That's right.
Family
Absolutely.
In Gettysburg.
And if you want to know what the rest of the schedule is, just go to addressinggettysburg.com, go to the Tours and Events tab, and find the full schedule there. And we'll see you on the field.
See you there. I'll try.
And we'll see you on the field.
See you there. Yes, I will. Yay!
All right, let me get the last goddamn word in. And we'll see you on the field. All right, that's good.
You're listening to the Addressing Gettysburg podcast. with Matt Callery.
All right, and we're back now here on Addressing Gettysburg. Time to get to the questions on this Ask a Gettysburg guide. We got 10 minutes to go, and then Chris has to leave. So let's get to them quickly. Of course, they're submitted by our patrons over at patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg. Written questions are submitted through all levels of Patreon. Anybody can do that over there, but the callers that you're going to hear soon are the first lieutenants only. They're the only ones with that privilege there. Brian Durenick starts us off here. He says, in his report after the Battle of Gettysburg, when speaking about the attack made by Wright's brigade on Cemetery Hill on the afternoon of July 2nd, Gibbon stated the following, quote, "The enemy came on us with such impetuosity that the head of the column came quite through a vacancy in our line to the left of my division." Chris, talk about any specific actions Gibbon took with his division on Cemetery Ridge on the afternoon of July 2nd to fill this gap in order to withstand Wright's attack.
Okay. Well, we covered some of it during the main discussion, but essentially there's been 2 regiments and a battery that have been sent out towards the Emmitsburg Road. You can see their monuments for the regiments there today.
Right.
They will eventually be overrun, particularly with Wright and I think it was Lang, is there as well. Pushing back, they will end up losing 2 of the Union guns that'll be captured. I think there's a story of either one of those guns or another gun that comes back through the gate and is tipped over and has to be reset. But that the gap in the line is caused, of course, by Union troops in the center being sent down to help out, the earlier pressure, whether or not it's Willard's brigade, 1st Minnesota, was it like the 19th Maine, 42nd New York, sent down there, to cover those areas. And so now you have this gap that's in and around, let's just say the area of where the U.S. regulars monument is.
Okay.
And that's going to be, by at least some historians thought, where Wright's breakthrough actually takes place.
Mm-hmm.
There are men that have fallen back from the 3rd Corps, men that have been pushed back from the 2nd Corps, batteries that have come back on the south part of that, and on the northern part of that, more or less behind the copse of trees and just south, that are helping to break up that breakthrough, if you will. So filling in the gap there, would be Gibbon and Harrow and these guys responding to that breakthrough. Wright claims to have broken through with his brigade. I'm not sure if 1,500 men made that breakthrough.
Right.
I'm not sure if it was 15 men, but
someone did.
They claim to have broken through and get on top of that ridge long enough to see what's behind it, that rocky gorge, as Mike so eloquently described it. It's really hard to figure out, specifically what happened when and where with all of those regiments and what kind of time sequence, because it's mass chaos.
Right.
The result, though, is this, and some historians will say that the next day when Lee decides that he's going to make Pickett's charge, he's probably thinking, okay, I had a brigade breakthrough, what can 3 divisions of men do now?
Mm-hmm.
So some historians will wonder if that enters into Lee's thinking, that the line can be broken.
Right.
Okay. But Gibbon, I'm sure it was one of those situations where any set of troops that he has, available to him, he's throwing into that gap.
Absolutely.
To try to help out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take our first phone call here. It sounds like our buddy 6 Questions Lentz is on the phone. 6 questions. What have you got here?
Hello. Thank you. Yes. This one is my question, and is what was Gibbon's relationship like with his family after the war, and did his brothers survive the war?
Great question, Michael.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the answer to that, Mike. Sounds like a little further research is needed. I don't have anything that I've found that says either way in any of the biographies that we have. I was interested to find that, and I mentioned this, I think, in the other part of the show, that there's apparently a lot of papers and articles that Gibbon wrote, but even the I think it was the whoever wrote the article in Gettysburg Magazine, I have his name here, Stephen J. Wright. Stephen J. Wright. He was at the time of this writing, which would have been in 1995, Wright was the curator of collections at the Civil War Library Museum in Philadelphia, and he was preparing a book on General Gibbon and General Hancock's papers regarding Reams Station. But he makes reference in that article that there's a lot of documentation, but yet in the article they kind of state that Gibbon doesn't really say anything about this. So not sure what the family reunions or Thanksgiving dinner was like afterwards, and I'd have to, of course, go into the individuals' service records to see what happened to them. How's that for an answer?
I also actually, Matt, I'm going to violate your rule, but this one actually comes from a caller or viewer in Birmingham, England. Adrian
Yes.
Wall Hayes, and
Birmingham.
International calling can get a little expensive.
Yes, it can.
So,
all right, we'll let this one slide.
For this one moment, this one exception. What was Gibbon's and Hancock's relationship before the Overland campaign?
Great question.
Well, I think from the time that Gibbon and Hancock knew each other throughout the beginning part of the war, that may have known each other as fellow division commanders, in the Army, all the way up through Gettysburg, even post Gettysburg, seems to have been okay. Seems to have gone okay in the wilderness until it doesn't. And I was kind of thinking about this over the past couple of days, and Hancock's wound is pretty bad. Gibbon's got a wound. I know if I wake up with a little arthritis in my shoulder or something, I can be kind of not in a great mood. I can't imagine trying to deal with the wounds that these guys have.
Yep.
So it maybe made them a little more short-tempered than he would have been, especially Hancock. Who seems to have a pretty short fuse anyway. On the battlefield when he expects certain things to be happening. There's evidence of that all throughout Gettysburg. And it works very well for the Union Army here. I think that they had a respect for each other, up until Hancock started to get a little bit critical of the performance of Gibbon in the Second Corps. Other evidence to suggest otherwise.
Well, thank you. Time is short, so I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for answering my question and Adrian's question. So
thank you kindly. 6 questions, and Adrian. Have a good day. All right, and then we got one more call here. We had 3, but looks like Russell dropped out, so we're going to go here to Richard Snyder here. This once it pops up, there it is. Okay. Rich, you're on the air. Welcome, and thank you for calling.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chris, for doing this episode. I find General Gibbon an interesting fella. I have 2 quick questions, and I'll just let you go through it, Chris. The first one is, who was wounded first on July 3rd? Was it Hancock or was it Gibbon?
Good question.
And then my second question relates to Gibbon's role in the Indian Wars. I've heard from some people that there are some criticisms of Gibbon, and that some of that might be because of some writings he did after the Indian Wars. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Okay. As far as who's wounded first, this is a guess. I don't know that we know, but I would guess that a strong possibility that Gibbon was wounded first, only because of his location on the line and where the Confederates hit. as he's trying to get the units shifted out. He's actually trying to get his units to shift out very similar to the Vermonters as well. But I don't think I've ever read or seen a sequence that says this is the time that Gibbon was wounded and this is the time that Hancock was wounded. It's possible they were wounded at the same time. It's possible Hancock was wounded first, being on that knoll. But I don't know that anybody tracked it that carefully.
I would imagine it would be, I just imagine a whole bunch of lead flying through the air and just people getting hit. Nothing like the movies portray. I think like we have movie ideas of battle in our head, but I think it's a much more harsh, obviously, much more harsh and almost clinical, right? Piece of lead flies through the air. If you're in the way, you get hit.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. Like there's no big, huge, dramatic flailing of the arms and falling back like they do in the movies. Like you're just getting hit. People are just getting hit everywhere, all around you. Like you mentioned, the orderly gets hit, I guess, as he's riding up, right?
As he's bringing the horse up.
As he's bringing the horse up and he gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Gibbon just keeps on going, right? Because you can't go, Charlie!
Yeah.
You got to just keep on going.
Yeah.
And it's got to be tough. What was your other question there, Rich?
It is in regards to General Gibbon's performance during the Indian Wars. I've read some places where he was criticized somewhat for his, I can't remember if it was his performance during the Indian Wars or if it was because of some writings that he did after the war that were kind of pro-Native American. I wondered if Chris knew anything about that.
Yeah, so I've read some about the Indian Wars. Read some about the Battle of Little Bighorn, but certainly not an Indian War expert. It wouldn't surprise me, in the post-Indian War age, or maybe even during, that there wouldn't be some criticisms. But I don't know that I can give you a solid answer on that, Rich. Because of that, and it's kind of interesting that he did befriend Chief Joseph. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Certainly the treatment of the natives, certainly all throughout the Indian Wars and afterwards. There's a lot of criticism to go around. That we can, and some of that may hit John Gibbon, but we'd have to dig into his writings a little bit, or I would have to specifically to see what it was that people give you an answer on that. But
I know that Custer, for the reputation he gets, I think Custer in the 1960s with all those stupid hippies, they had to relook at everything and villainize our heroes, right? So Custer now becomes like the lightning rod, and all of the blame of all of America's sins against Native Americans is right on his shoulders, right? Yeah. He's a lieutenant colonel. As Jim Hassler famously said, lieutenant colonels do not make Indian policy, right? Excuse me. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. So, but Custer, though, if you look at what he wrote, and I think his testimony in front of Congress or at some hearing, talking about the Indians, he's like, I wouldn't have stayed on a reservation either. Like, I don't blame these people. I would want to be free too. He was sympathetic towards them, but his job was to not be. But as a man, he was. So I would imagine, if Gibbon and Chief Joseph are, becoming friends after the hostilities are over, I think, first of all, it's a respect of warriors. There's that thing that the civilians don't really understand. And then also, I think that you can still fight against someone and have a great deal of respect for them. Because I always say that, the friends that I have who I probably have the most respect for are the ones who I disagree with on just about everything. That we can disagree and still break bread that night at dinner and be friends the next day. I have a great deal of respect for people like that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe that's what it is he was like, yeah, I fought them and we defeated them but these people, they're having a rough lot and I have some sympathy for them.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
Rich, anything else?
No, that's great. Thanks for taking my call. Great to talk to both of you.
You too, Rich. Are we gonna? We're not going to see you on any of the tours this year, right? You're done with coming out to the tours because you got football, right?
Yeah, my son plays Division III college football at St. Vincent, so my fall weekends are kind of booked up. But Chris, I may reach out to you about South Cavalry Field sometime.
Oh, there you go.
Right. Sounds good.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Rich, and thank you, 6 Questions Lens, for calling in, and thank you, Russell, for attempting to call in, and then even though you hung up and didn't get to, I didn't get to you. Real quick, South Cavalry Field.
Yeah.
There's, the avenue, the old avenue that isn't there anymore, but you can see the roadbed of it and everything like that. And there's the South Cavalry Field that everybody can see very easily as they pass it, which would be on the east side of the Emmitsburg Road. West Side, though, there's another road that goes off with some monuments on it. I was told by a ranger, I forget which one, he referred to it as Kilpatrick Avenue. But that's, I think, officially known as South Cavalry Field Avenue. What's the?
So Kilpatrick Avenue was an avenue that was laid out in the early 1900s. That where Graham's Battery is, that little strip of land.
Right at South Cavalry Field.
Encompasses that all the way over, up and around through Ridge Road and up around the battlefield. I mean, it's a pretty extensive road that they laid out. They made a plan for it, and then they didn't fund it.
Okay.
So where Graham's Battery is, it's been leveled for a road, but it was never.
So there was never a road there?
No.
So it was just the bed of the road that they made, and then they stopped?
Yeah.
So when you go and you see that indentation today, that's just the bed that was dug, but never was there a road made, and never has a wagon or a car ever gone up there as a tourist.
My understanding is by the time it, when they were trying to fund it, a lot of the veterans had passed away. There was less of a, we were in World War I or getting to close to World War I, World War II, in all that time frame. There wasn't a whole lot of interest, if you will, in continuing to develop those roads, is my understanding.
Okay.
But, as you come up the Emmitsburg Road, both sides of the road, there's cavalry actions.
Right.
The one on the left side, there's a fight that's commanded by Wesley Merritt.
Mm-hmm.
On the right, it's Kilpatrick and Elon Farnsworth and all that. Wesley Merritt, just to kind of tie a bow around this, as they like to say, right? Wesley Merritt, after the Battle of Little Bighorn, Major Reno is brought up on some charges. There's a court of inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Wesley Merritt is the general that runs that court of inquiry.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think I knew that.
Yeah,
but I
you
forgot that.
did.
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah.
Chris Army, thank you very much for coming on.
Sure.
Not only is he a licensed battlefield guide here at Gettysburg, you're also a certified guide down at Brandy Station.
Yep.
People can get a hold of you to take a tour down there. How?
Go to culpepperbattlefieldtours.com. And
also 6 Questions Lens is a guide down there. And Tracy Bear.
Who
else from up here?
Jason Heilman.
Jason Heilman, that's right. Yeah. So a lot of our guides up here are also guides down there at Culpeper, so you can get them. Maybe you could arrange a whole weekend where they take you around here and then take you down there one day. And, if you got the money, they got the time, right?
Hey, Culpeper is the most fought over county in the entire American Civil War.
It's very interesting. When we were down there last year recording the anniversary show, about a year ago, actually, it was this month that we went down to record that. I loved it because I grew up going down there. I have family there in that area. I had been there before as a kid, but never really had a tour, and we had a great time. And I didn't realize how important that Brandy Station battlefield was. Like, it wasn't just the Battle of Brandy Station.
Yeah.
There was a lot of activity there throughout the war, and you got to go ahead and do it. Otherwise, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Chris has got to go. I kept him 10 minutes over when he said he needs to leave, and I'm sorry about that. But thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Hey everyone, before you go, I would like to highlight a friend and supporter of the show, The Badge Maker, your source for authentic Civil War Corps badges and more. Purchase handcrafted, historically accurate Civil War Corps badges from all Corps. Discover a vast collection of military and civilian insignias of various kinds. Experience the exclusive service of custom hand-stamped reproduction ID discs. At his website, civilwarcorpsbadges.com, The Badge Maker brings history to life with precision and passion. Thanks for listening.
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Gary Owen in glory. Instead of spa, we'll drink down from Gary.